It was easy at least to make sure their paths crossed on their dorm stairs. Marlborough's training in the way to build male friendships without entanglement was critical in Kate's ability to earn William's wary confidence. Unlike the flock of female students, especially Americans who flagrantly hit on William, she built his trust by seeming uninterested. Hello, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, then welcome. I'm Jess Cannell, and I would love to earn your subscription today in this video. Well, we are about to get into more of Tina Brown's The Palace Papers, and as you may remember, last episode we got into Kate Middleton when she was just Kate Middleton. That's not me calling her the wrong name now that she is Princess Catherine, but she was Kate Middleton during that section of her life. This time we are going to get into the times when she and William began to notice each other and the early parts of their relationship. Before we do, I want to let you know I'm having an exceedingly difficult time narrowing down which articles I want to go through with you guys first. Let me just give you a quick overview of some of the topics that I would love to go through with you. So I have vintage magazines relating to Bobby Kennedy and his election, the electoral hopes that people had for him. I've got this one about Sirhan in jail, you guys, that I want to go through with you. And I've got one about remembering Marilyn. Many of you have watched the Marilyn Monroe episode. And so I would love to dive in more with you guys about Marilyn because I really don't know much about her. And she is a fascinating person who is connected to both JFK and RFK, as well as many other people like Frank Sinatra. And I also have some printed out articles, you guys, about whether or not certain people had anything to do with JFK's murder. There is a lot for us to tackle, and part of me is trying to make sure that we have the information and pieces in place that we might need once the JFK and RFK and MLK files drop. So I am trying to put those pieces in place, and in the coming weeks we will have some, maybe all of the articles I just mentioned. But I don't want to lose sight of this wonderful book we are going through. So let's go ahead and get into this book, but come back because as we do 2 of these every week, we will be filling in the gaps with these other awesome topics. So come and join us for that. So last time we got through Kate's life, now we're getting to that fateful moment. Closer and closer, William had aced Raleigh International too. He was pushed to do it by Mark Dyer, Charles's erstwhile equerry, who had taken over the job of mentoring his sons in their post-school years. Known as Marco, if you've read Prince Harry's Spare, you've heard about Marco. I believe this is the same man. Known as Marco to his friends, Dyer is a copper-haired, 6-foot-tall, straight-shooting former Welsh Guards officer who once dated Tiggy Legbork, and today is godfather to Harry's son, Archie. So I believe it is the same Marco. Dyer's palace brief for gap year guidance seems to have been to follow the Prince Philip credo of pounding the boys with fresh air, exercise, and community service. Hectic, macho jungle training in Belize, a stint on a marine project in Mauritius, a spell in Kenya working on a game reserve, a month cleaning out cow stalls and milking on a dairy farm, and a 10-week expedition with Raleigh International in Chile. You know, we'll read more here in just a minute, but I'm thinking about 2 separate thoughts. One is that how good this is for a young man. I think one of the things that we're seeing in our society in America right now is that a lot of young men feel like they don't have a path forward. And we've had a lot of decades of women making advancements, and that's all well and good. And our society has financially prospered from that. And plenty of women have made their mark on the world. But young men, I have seen it with my own son, who's a Marine, that he tried to go the college route. He actually is very academic minded, but then COVID hit and he was like, Mom, I'm not an online student. And that changed the course of his whole path. But he was geared toward, part of the reason why he was geared toward military service is that there's a clear path forward. And so I love this idea, just for a young man, to have a plan that someone's going to take you to do this, and then to do this, and then you'll do this. And you don't have to figure it all out, but you're going to be active and moving the whole time. So I think just for a young man, this is an interesting thing. But then for a future king, to have experiences with warfare, with various different kinds of landscapes and things that are all relevant for the commonwealth he will one day be leading, but also just day in, day out, things like mucking out cow stalls. I just love that he had to do this, because even if all you've done in your whole life is 1 month of mucking out cow stalls, you have something on which to hang an understanding of what someone else's life might be like. And as a king, I feel like that is supremely important for him to be able to relate to the people that he would one day rule. I guess, is that how we still talk about it, even though he's just a titular head? Do we just talk about him as, does he rule? Does he lead? You guys can let me know in the comments which word you think is more appropriate. Well, according to plan, it all went wrong. William's group in Chile had to sea kayak through raging storms. The party was marooned on a beach for 5 years in a freezing downpour. One of the at-risk youth participants became agitated, and the only person who could reportedly calm him down was William. On the last leg of the trip, he mucked in at a primary school in a rough local community, filling the British newspapers for 2 days with magical shots of Diana's beautiful boy sharing her gift for connecting with disadvantaged children. William's combination of bashful good looks, hardy endurance, and tender relatability has never been so appealing before or since. To keep a low profile, he arrived at St. Andrews in September 2001 after the Freshers Meet and Greet Week. It was a somber international moment 12 days after the 9/11 attacks. There was an anxiety about possible further attacks on American allies. Prince Charles drove William up, trailed by private detectives. William had 2 personal protection officers. They got in some goodwill engagements, first in Glasgow and in Edinburgh, where they signed a condolence book at the U.S. consulate. William wrote in it the boyish message, "With deepest sympathy, love from William." They squeezed in lunch with his 101-year-old Gan, the Queen Mother, at her Highland home. Her parting words were, "Any good parties, invite me down." Oh, she seems like such a hoot. I don't know that she ever really lost her youthfulness. I know many of you have said like the word bright or brilliant or glowing or dazzling were all words that you thought accurately described the Queen Mother, that she just was like a gem that just shone all the time and was really fun. And you see it with her fluffy hats. I mean, that's the era that I grew up knowing her as, is the very, very old Queen Mother. But that she would have these words, "Any good parties, invite me down." It's so cute. The young prince, like Kate, had preferred Edinburgh as a first choice, but royal protection officers deemed the setting too exposed to ensure his safety. The vice-chancellor at St. Andrews had multiple conversations with the palace about the best way to protect him. Prince Charles had visited himself and checked out the proposed hall of residence. A robust deal was negotiated with the Press Complaints Commission that while Williams was at St. Andrews, the press would continue to leave him alone until after he graduated. This was a key change in Britain, we'll note. We've read articles just recently, and one of our recent episodes was about Diana's battle with the press. And so this was one of the changes that was made. You know, in all kinds of ways in society, we have to reckon with the way things were, and sometimes even the way things are, and that it's not precisely how we would wish it to be. But I think we should celebrate when there are moments like this where there's a reckoning and a change. There's a before and an after. And to me, this is a win that William was given the chance to just go to college and be left alone until he graduated. The original deal that the PCC struck with newspaper editors for Eton was extended to cover William until he finished full-time education. Mostly it was followed, except for that debacle of his uncle Prince Edward's production company showing up on campus. Lord Black, the former director of the PCC, told me, Tina Brown, he would never forget a town hall meeting he conducted with St. Andrew's students soon before William arrived. Listen to these concerns that students had. Students were worried that they would find themselves in the papers if they hung out with or were seen around William. We approached the church where that meeting was taking place, and I said, "What's that queue of people?" And it became rapidly clear that it was a line trying to get into a 500-seat church when I was expecting about 50. I was bombarded with questions about whether indiscreet behavior somewhere near William would end up on the front page. It made you realize what that was like for William, to have this issue loom so large with people who befriended him. Yeah, you can see that just naturally students would be worried of, what if I crack a joke? What if we all have a sit out of class? What if we skip class? Is it going to end up on the front page? Am I going to be humiliated in front of my parents if I do something that's just normal college behavior, but it happens to be in lieu with or somehow in proximity with the future King of England? True friends of William had to get used to being stalked and phone hacked by the press. The prince was lucky to just miss the launch of Twitter and Facebook in 2006 and all the subsequent torments of social media that doubtless await his son, Prince George, when he attends university in the future. Can you even imagine? That's a conundrum that I'm sure palace folks are already thinking through. I mean, how would it be done? Are they going to have a phone-free secondary school? Are they going to somehow have a lock up your phones at parties where Prince George is there? I don't know. We have such a social media saturated world where anybody can go live at any moment. It's going to be a complex thing for the current young royals to navigate. The last thing William desired at St. Andrews was the coddled loneliness of his father's experience at Cambridge. He made it known he didn't want to be referred to as His Royal Highness or be addressed as Sir, and he was listed at Sally's under the name of William Wales of Tetbury. Kate found herself there too, on the floor below. William was also down to study art history. William was so paranoid about whom he could trust that he sometimes would feed new people in his circle tidbits that were untrue, and then wait to see if they were leaked. It's sad that he would have to do that, but that makes perfect sense, that that's how you would test. If I say something that's a little bit, off, or little tidbits, is that going to get out into the press somehow? Given such caution, it was unlikely William's dating patterns would diverge from the long roll call of his former aristocratic conquests, mostly drawn from polo types or landowners' daughters. His social circle was replete with the same old stuffy titles from the Highgrove set whose parents had bored Diana, and the trend threatened to continue in his first year at St. Andrews. Other students found him retiring and low-key. The shy stance perfected at Eton was self-protection. William was perfectly aware he was a campus rock star. If he showed up at his favorite St. Andrews pub for a pint, the bar immediately filled with a questing hubbub of expectant girls. In an interview for his 21st birthday, William said he kept his head down a lot in an unsuccessful attempt not to be photographed. I have that image of him. Can you see it? There's a lot of photos where he's peeking out, which only serves to make him look more like Diana with those doe-eyed, glances at the camera looking up. that she would do, well, William definitely, but it's interesting to hear this motive, that his goal was really not to be photographed. He was not trying to be coy. He was trying to dodge photographers. Usually I was photographed with my eyes looking through a big blonde fringe. It was very silly, but I'm someone who doesn't particularly like being the center of attention. It's interesting that he says that, because I actually think that's similar to the Queen, the late Queen, that we're told that she wished she could have been a country woman, that was her ambition, that was her natural bent, was to race horses, muck out things, spend time out in her wellies. And this may not be the same exact tendency. We're not seeing a country boy aspect, but the idea of not really wanting to be noticed. I don't think that's true with Prince Charles and now King Charles. I think he did want to be noticed, and that's why he had friction with Diana when she was noticed. He enjoyed the spotlight. And then now as king, I think he really appreciates notice, not in an arrogant way. I don't see him being exceedingly arrogant, but I think he appreciates being noticed and being celebrated as king. We see something different with William, that he doesn't pursue the limelight, and that reminds me of the late Queen. So how for Kate to penetrate? It was easy at least to make sure their paths crossed on their dorm stairs. Marlborough's training in the way to build male friendships without entanglement was critical in Kate's ability to earn William's wary confidence. Unlike the flock of female students, especially Americans who flagrantly hit on William, she built his trust by seeming uninterested. It did help in her mystique that during her first term, she had a good-looking fourth-year law student in her thrall. After her morning run, she sometimes joined William and his friends for breakfast in the hall, or they swam together at the Old Course Hotel in St. Andrews. During their art history classes, they often sat unobtrusively together. She shared her notes when he didn't attend the lectures. Home for Christmas after his first term in 2001, William horrified his father and Mark Bolland with the news that he wasn't going back. He was bored at St. Andrews for all the reasons his police protection liked it. It was a small seaside town with very little action that gets dark by 4 p.m. in the winter. The timing of his news could not have been worse. The palace had strategic reasons for wanting the heir to the throne to study north of the border. In 1998, Scotland voted for devolution, and after the passing of an act, important powers from Westminster were transferred to a newly established Scottish parliamentary body. There was a feeling at the palace and among conservatives generally that the break might herald something worse. The Queen, a master throughout her reign at the art of gracious retreats while somehow preserving the aura of sovereignty, made a stirring speech to the new Scottish Parliament in 1999, praising the grit, determination, humor, and forthrightness of the Scots. Leaving St. Andrews would be a public relations disaster for William, and he would be trashed in the press as a spoiled quitter, like poor Prince Edward had been when he threw in the towel with the Royal Marines. At this critical juncture, Kate Middleton showed a gentle mastery of soft power, reminiscent of how the Queen Mother handled George VI. In a series of earnest conversations, she urged William to drop art history, a subject in which he had little or no interest. Why not switch to the gripping subject of geography, she soothed. After all, she reminded him he had done so awfully well at it in A-levels at Eton. Crisis averted. William asked Kate, in an obvious but unspoken declaration of trust, to join his flat share with Fergus Boyd and another student, Olivia Bleasdale, in off-campus accommodation for their second year at 13A Hope Street in the center of town. So here we have our first understanding of their relationship, that they were peers, that she was unobtrusive, she was non-threatening, she was trustworthy, and she was kind of just beside him at first, beside him in the dorm, beside him in breakfast beside him in class, and that over time, through a non-threatening presence, through a non-aggressive posture, she gained trust as someone that he could go to and not have things leak to the press, not have things go everywhere. He could lean on her input. And here we see one of his decisions being coaxed and counseled by her. Sexual attraction caught fire at the university's annual Don't Walk charity fashion show at the St. Andrews Bay Hotel in March 2002. The Vice Chancellor remembers it to me as the kind of cozy campus occasion when everyone was laughing about a male student modeling underwear with a sock stuffed down his shorts. The funds raised were going to the victims of the 9/11 attack, and the room was packed. In a Bridgerton-esque scene, William had bought one of the most expensive front row tables for himself and his young buck friends to get a ringside look at the girls parading past. Everyone noticed that he was transfixed by a smoking hot brunette who waltzed down the catwalk with the shortest of short skirts that showed off her figure and supermodel long legs. Kate Middleton? His terribly nice future housemate? She of the weighty heart-to-heart? For William, it was a double take. At the after party, William attempted to kiss the toast of the show, but she was still involved with Rupert Finch and she pushed him away. One of their friends who observed their connection told Katie Nichol he actually told her she was a knockout that night, which caused her to blush. There was definitely chemistry between them, and Kate had really made an impression on William. She played it very cool. Yet, she had also made the decision to sashay past William, wearing what was designed as a see-through skirt hoisted up as a dress with her underwear showing through. Yeah, she did. Reported later as the moment William made his first move, it feels more like the moment when Kate Middleton first made hers. Yes. Yeah, he made a move. He noticed her, and yet she was the one who had taken this designed skirt. So this is the photo in question of that catwalk. It was designed to be a skirt, and she was going to wear that, I believe, that bandeau top, and then she just hoisted it up as a dress. Interestingly, just last week we had a less underwear and way more see-through version of this on our own red carpets, and it caused a stir, but this was 23 years ago when the future Queen of England did something very similar, walking by in a sheer dress. Very, very seductive. It does seem purposeful. How can you, as a female, if you're the buddy type who's being invited, hey, I trust you, I like you, you're being invited in and yet not fully invited in. This is a clear move of like, hey, I have this as well. I'm not just a one-note buddy. At their flat share at 13A Hope Street, Kate got a close-up preview of William's compartmentalized world. Beyond the seclusion of their bubble, in November 2002, the Paul Burrell trial was collapsing, and wounding secrets were spilling out about his mother's lovers. In the early days of their friendship in April, the funeral of the Queen Mother required the young prince to travel to London to walk with other members of the royal family behind his great-grandmother's funeral cortege to Westminster Abbey. Collective memories of the flushed, sad boy following Diana's coffin with his small brother through the silent city streets were inescapable. Did William share any of the echoes of pain with Kate? We don't know. William and Kate at some point became a secret couple, protected by their friends. No PDA. They would arrive and depart at separate times. The seclusion of St. Andrews makes it a perfect place to be left alone. As a mecca of golf, town residents were used to seeing local celebrities like Sean Connery buying a newspaper or Michael Douglas having a drink in the pub. Kate loved to cook and host dinners. William made use of a cottage on the Balmoral estate where they would repair at weekends to roam around the moors. William got his girlfriend ready to impress his relatives by teaching her how to shoot. What is striking is how bourgeois they became so fast. In their third year, they moved out further with two other male friends of William's, Alistair Coates Wood and Ollie Baker, to Belgove House, a 4-bedroom cottage on the Strathdown estate that resembled a mini Highgrove with 2 acres of grassland hidden behind a 6-foot stone wall owned by a friend of the royal family. It was their home for their last 2 years at St. Andrews. At an age when most young couples want to hang loose, these two were full bore into grocery shopping at Tesco and hosting black tie dinners. Harry often came to stay on weekends with an open invitation from Kate that made him feel it was a home away from home. The lack of drama provided William with an emotional safe space. There are echoes of the haven that Elizabeth gave to Philip after his years of orphan wandering around Europe. It's interesting that they connect here Kate and her actions to the late Queen's actions, that she was the safe place with a stable family for William, in a similar way to how Queen Elizabeth, then Princess Elizabeth, with a safe family, a stable family life, provided an anchor for Prince Philip, whose boyhood had been here, there, and everywhere, where he had never even had a home to go home to from Gordonston. Kate never made jealous scenes. Whenever their romance hit a speed bump, she would retreat to Bucklebury for strategy sessions with Carol. The tightness of the Middleton clan was one of the strongest weapons in Kate's armory. After a year of dating Kate, William adopted the whole family. Not only did he fall for her, but them, one of the acquaintances said to me. A warm nest with a complete nuclear family and seemingly wonderfully uncomplicated. The dad played the dad. The mum, the county's tiger mum. But also he saw the daughters and James getting along and wanting to get along with their parents. What a contrast. The prince, who could take his pick of palaces and estates to spend weekends, wanted nothing so much as tennis, TV, and Carol's creature comforts at the Middleton home. He was such a regular house guest, he had his quad bike transferred from Highgrove to Bucklebury and joined them on their well-planned vacations. The couple were so discreet and well protected by their friends that they weren't busted by the press until March 2004. That's 2 full years after that runway modeling episode that we saw. Only when Kate was spied in Closters riding up the mountain on a T-bar beside an affectionate William was it clear that this radiant brunette occupied a position of settled intimacy. It's interesting to read about these times and remember what it was like. There was so much speculation about who he would marry, about what would happen, about his relationship with Charles because of how things had gone with Diana. There was speculation about would the monarchy pass over Charles and just go straight to William because everybody loved him so much. There was a lot resting on the shoulders of this young man, and you can feel the tension of it even in this chapter from Tina Brown, that there's the actual physical security risks. There's the constant aggression of females against him. There's the risk of friends betraying you. And then there's just the desire to be a normal college guy who sometimes misses class and sometimes needs to catch up on the notes, and quite a position to be in. And then to always feel the risk of, if I'm out with this girl, I could be photographed with this girl and it could ruin both of our lives and ruin our relationship. It's a lot to take on. It really is. Well, let's keep going. We're going to get through this chapter and then probably be done there. The exposure of their relationship was unhelpful to Kate's quiet campaign. Remember how Prince Charles would date a woman, but then if anything leaked to the press about their relationship, she was gone. Only Diana survived that. But everybody else, of course, previously, that was his mode, was the minute it's leaked, he's done with you. So Kate had had this quiet building campaign of trust and longevity. Well, the publicizing of their relationship nettled William into wanting to prove his independence. he headed off on a sailing trip in Greece with his childhood friend Guy Pelly and a racy all-girl crew. Two formidable possible rivals appeared on the scene later that summer. A vivacious American heiress, Anna Sloan, who hosted William solo on her father's estate in Nashville in August. Whoa. And the extravagantly named Isabella Anstruther Gow Calthorpe, one of the stunning blonde actress daughters of the much-married beauty, Lady Mary Gay Curzon. William was fascinated by her, but Isabella was too beautiful and well-connected to find the hassle of being his girlfriend very interesting. Yeah, when you already have your own celebrity world going on, it would be a dampening of your fun to date somebody like William, who you had to be so careful and so mindful of everything that he did. The stakes were much higher for Kate now that the relationship with William was public. She had to balance widespread humiliation if William dumped her, alongside the need to never push him too hard. Her family came under scrutiny with barely veiled sneers about her mother's lower middle class origins. A steady drip of blind quotes appeared from unnamed friends or peripheral palace folks suggesting doors to manual, which is an airline term, was whispered whenever the former flight attendant, Carol, socialized in upper-class circles. So now her family is being razzed as well. The fourth year at St. Andrews was a dangerous passage for the Middleton Wales liaison. In the sleepy isolation of Balga House, the atmosphere was edgy. William was behaving like a pampered prince. How could the second in line to the throne be anything other than a man just a little bit spoiled by a sycophancy he didn't even recognize? A friend who visited with the couple told Andrew Morton that William could be flip and curt with her. He expected Kate to run after him, and the longer they knew each other, the more he seemed to keep her on a tight leash. Carol counseled, give him space. On weekends, Kate left the campus for Bucklebury and toiled away at her dissertation on Lewis Carroll, which combined two subjects that grew in fascination for her: early childhood and photography. Each time that William felt restive with Kate, he quickly discovered that it wasn't as easy as it looked to replace her with the girls he thought he wanted, or to find anyone he could trust as he trusted her. Dodging the press quickly got tedious. Any young woman involved with William confronted constant issues of unequal status. Because of strict spouses-only protocol rules, Kate was not invited to Charles and Camilla's wedding in April 2005, though she had by now met them many times. On graduation day, which we have a picture of as well, the Queen and Prince Philip, Charles, and Camilla all attended the ceremony. And the festive garden party that followed had the Queen in a joyful mood. And yet, even while she's being escorted around, the Middleton family, who was there to cheer for Kate, was advised not to go up or approach the royals. Isn't that weird? Can you even imagine? Here is that photo of Kate on her graduation day right there. How weird that would be to have the two families knowing that the two are special and yet not having any formal connection. It feels like something from Jane Austen's era, that the two may not socially be connected until there is a formal obligation. In fact, William's live-in girlfriend was not even introduced to his grandmother. It took another 3 years for Kate to be greeted by the Queen at the wedding of Princess Anne's son, Peter Phillips. That was May 2008. 6 years after the runway walk, you guys. Until the very moment an engagement was announced, a female friend of William's was both prey for the media and a non-person to the palace. This became ferociously apparent as soon as the couple left the St. Andrews cocoon. William was immediately swallowed up by his role as a monarch in training. He acquired a new impressive guide for this next act. Jamie Lowther Pinkerton, a 44-year-old former Special Air Service officer. No one could be a better choice to both understand the peculiar demands of the royal world and design how the boys could most purposefully serve their country in their post-school and university years. This is similar to Marco's role, that there's someone there mapping out his time. Immediately, William's life course was on track. On 29th of June, 2005, the 23-year-old heir to the throne was dispatched to represent the Queen on his first solo overseas royal tour in New Zealand. Lowther Pinkerton designated him to 44 weeks of Army officer training at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, 1 year serving in the Household Cavalry Blues and Royals Regiment, and a 2-year tasting menu of the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force. Kate's role, meanwhile, was to be the goodbye girl, available when William needed her. The enigmatic question is whether the future Duchess of Cambridge was preternaturally self-directed from the start, or whether she became so invested in the veneer of suitability she made herself inevitable. The crucible was the press, and how she would survive it. Wow. This chapter reveals such a vulnerable, precarious position for Kate Middleton at this moment, that she would need such steadiness of character, such long-ranging vision, eye on the prize. And I don't mean a cat-like predatory state. I just mean like any couple. If you are both wanting to be married, but he has 1.5 years to graduate med school or whatever, there's an eye on the prize of that's where we want to get. So we have to make it through this period and we have to navigate it well. The patience and steadfastness and just resolute sturdiness of character that would require is a lot. I had forgotten that she waited for this long. I remember the nickname Waity Katie. But taking off that nickname and actually eyeballing the actual patience that would be required of a girlfriend in this situation is something remarkable, don't you think? Well, the next chapter we're going to get to is chapter 13, Queen in Waiting. Kate closes the deal. So I am looking forward to getting into that with you. We will move through the Kate years. We are past the halfway point at this point, and there is still more to come. I'm so excited to go through more of this with you. I hope you will leave in the comments your thoughts about her character, about the way William treated her, about that summer off with a ship full of females. I would not have been able to be patient through these sorts of travails. What about you? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to hear from you, and be on the lookout. We're gonna do our next episode of Palace Papers, but then this weekend we will have additional articles like I talked about at the beginning. So be on the lookout for those, and I'll hope to see you later this week. Bye.